Good afternoon, study session, Mayor and City Council meeting. 20, I thought I was reading something wrong. 2 p.m. Thursday, June 13th, 2019, City Hall Complex. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Number 3, discussion items. Members of the City Council, is there any special order you want to go with, or should we start with
fire department, because that's the one we've been working on.
Okay. All right, we'll start with the fire department. So basically, for who's going to be representing the fire department? You, Chief, or
Yes.
you are? Would you please go to the podium, please?
If there's any questions on the contract, we have the union president.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. This is the reason we're having this study session, and this is for the rest of the unions also. Not everything on the contract is a concern that we have, except for monetary issues. Okay, and we've been struggling for the past 2 weeks to balance our budget. Okay, and I'm just going to ask you a question and ask you, Alita, the question too. As union members and as firefighters and as city employees and as citizens of Nogales, what can you do to help us balance the budget? Is there anything in your contract and your monies? We're concerned with the overtime. There's certain concerns of each member of the council has concerns of either that uniform allowance, that personal hygiene thing, and we all have concerns. Right. But is there anything that you could do, that you could talk to us about, that you could help us balance the budget?
To balance it, I believe that it's to be a little bit better as managers, and that's our commitment between both Division Chief Counsel and myself. What's in the proposed in our fiscal budget is it's only to meet the expenditure that we had this year. We've been under, especially in the overtime, and the overtime there's a breakdown. It does stick out like it's only backfill, but it's not. It's the mandated FLSA that we have. It's the benefit from the city of Nogales that you pay all the employees a holiday benefit and a holiday on-duty benefit for the holidays. So those 3 items right there, whether it's a FLSA, that's where most of the line items of the overtime of the FLSA goes. We need at least 450, I believe that's what we calculated. The rest of the overtime is just for backfill. And unfortunately, the previous director was there where he had his standards. Those we cannot change. We're here where we're at. What we can commit to is to make and manage our budget the best that we can.
I mean, but what if we were to say, you know what, we're going to cap your overtime? What would you do then?
Then that would be a decision that we would have to manage and cap it and lower down the standards of the minimum staffing, but there's a negative effect to it. And the negative effect is this. We try to staff 3 ambulances every single day. If we're not able to staff those ambulances, that means that any other 3rd, 4th medical call that comes out to the city of Nogales, we would have to be calling mutual aid. The revenues then will go to the whatever responding agency, could be Rio Rico or 2 back responding to those medical calls. We have seen that this year we got a report from our building department from Fry. It's $944,000 that we have collected. If we change our staffing and we go with minimum staffing, then that 944, and in previous years it's been $1 million, it might go down. So that's a side effect to it.
You know, because you know, as as council, we we started looking at the spreadsheet on the overtime.
Correct.
And I myself, I won't speak for the other members of the city council, but I myself, I was in shock to see some firefighters basically have two salaries. Okay? Yes, go ahead. You want to, but you have to get on the point.
As Chief Sanchez was trying to explain, a lot of you guys just got one lump number, right? That this is how much overtime the fire department is making. But if you break it down, a lot of that FLSA gets paid at time and a half, as long as you work your own shifts. Holiday benefit, if you work that, gets paid at time and a half. So all of that looks like if we're working overtime, but it's coming out of the overtime line item, but it's not actually overtime work. The actual
It says
overtime
on the-
work,
on the line, it says overtime.
but and that's not overtime that we actually worked. You know what I mean? It's getting FLSA hours. We're going to get those hours as long as you complete your shifts. That's Federal Labor and Standard Act, right? There's nothing we can do about that. And again, like the holiday pay, that has nothing to do with even with our contract. That's coming from that. It directly mirrors the city manual, the personnel manual. So if we had no contract, we would get the holiday benefit and the FLSA paid exactly the way we're getting it right now. So, and then what else was I going to say? Oh, and then a lot of the overtime that we do work has to do with the guys that go to the wildfires, and all that gets reimbursed by the state, as well as people. For example, myself, I'm working overtime today for two guys that are at the fire in Tumacacori. My overtime shift will be reimbursed, as well as their overtime, as well as their salary. So, you know, you guys see that big number, but I wish we had a breakdown of how much actually gets reimbursed as well. Yes. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
But that all that overtime gets paid back to the city. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I understand. What I want to deal with, I know that there's agreements here with the federal labor law and things like that. But I think what the question was, when we understood that was made clear to us by Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Castro. But what I'm concerned about is that there was a column there that said, what is the cost of the contract? And the cost of the contract for the firefighters was $200,000. That's what I think we should deal with. Is what is the cost? When the mayor is making statement, how can you help us? I think that statement is a very proper business conservative statement to make. But it has to do with the contract itself, because there's things, like Mr. Mercado has eloquently pointed out, there's things that we have no control over. That's the way it is.
Correct.
And if we try to mess with it, they're gonna take us to court, and I don't think Mr. Massey is even gonna allow us to mess with FSLA or things that are required like that, okay? So we're just, creating a drumbeat that is not worth doing. I'd just like to know, this contract is costing us $200,000. Now, how can you help us with a union contract? And like you alluded to, Mayor, when you made the statement, housekeeping, you know, that cost the city $22,000 just to pay for housekeeping. So that's what I think, those are things that we can control, and that's, you're talking there, $200,000 just for the union contract. That's what we'd like to know, how can you, no, that's the number that they get. I didn't bring my packet, but I know that that's what they get. Let's do it.
We do have here to put it here on the board, and we have a spreadsheet, pretty much.
Mr. Kissinger, can you put that on the board number, please?
Might have went ahead and put all the stuff and all the numbers are there correctly, hopefully.
All right. Was that correct, Mr. McCarthy?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry.
That's what the mayor's doing. We don't not gonna mess or talk about the other stuff.
One of my, when I read this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but reading everybody gets, let's just say Martin Luther King Day. Everybody gets time and a half as a holiday. Only if you're on duty.
Only for the personnel that work the actual holiday, that they're on duty at the station.
Just the people that work it.
Uh-huh.
Yes. The other people don't get the holiday.
The other ones get a
They get
holiday
regular pay.
benefit.
They get a holiday
day off.
benefit. So even the people that work it, do they still get one time and then besides that, time and a half? No. They just get paid time and a half?
You either get the holiday, or if you work it, you get time and a half for working a holiday.
So how they're paid is that if they work the regular shift, say Memorial Day was a holiday, they get 24 hours for showing up to work. It's just the schedule that they were working.
If that was a schedule.
Correct. And so they show up, there's an agreement,
Now, do they get 24-hour pay or do they get paid for 8 hours?
so they get the regular 24 hours at 100%. Then because it's a holiday, they have an additional 24 hours of time and a half for the people that work on duty that day for the
For
holiday.
the whole 24 hours. So it's
That
not
is
like
correct.
Everybody else gets 8 hours or 9 hours.
Correct, because we are there,
24 hours.
let me rephrase that, the personnel is there 24 hours a day.
But we, and I agree with Councilman, Mayor,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
agree with Councilman Gonzalez. We were
Yes.
kind of led to believe it the last time that everybody's gonna get
Correct.
time and a half.
No,
All of
it's
you
only
are. That's
the
what-
people that show up to work. And it used to be, and it was kind of confusing for payroll, because they would take it from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning, then from 8 o'clock in the morning to midnight. So the union agreed, you know what's too much confusing, too many numbers of 16 and the 8, so we just made an agreement to say whoever works the actual holiday comes in that morning at 8 o'clock, gets paid for the 24 hours. Now, the city does give the rest of the employees a 24-hour holiday benefit, which is for 100%, 24 hours.
Everything. Government.
Well,
Mayor,
the city gets, if it's the garbage collectors there, they get the holiday, they get paid for the holiday. But they don't get paid for 24 hours, they just get paid for 8 or 9 hours.
Because that's their schedule. They work an 8-hour shift, we work a 24-hour shift.
You have to understand.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
the one thing that I don't want us to get into the three unions. We know we have to cut back. I would just like to go through these things, and then at the end, take your concept into play and just direct the city manager. City manager, we want you to trim down these contracts by X amount of dollars. And you come back to us and tell us how you're going to do that. I don't wanna get into tic-tac, this and that.
No,
for
I
us.
understand.
Let's just say, give direction to the city manager, what amount of money that we need to get our budget in order, and leave it up to him to work with the union rep, and that's his responsibility to bring us back that cut. That way, we don't get into this.
Mayor,
Go ahead,
I
Councilman.
would rather have the unions come and give us their proposal as to how they're gonna be able to reduce whatever it is, you know, here I'm sitting here and I talk to people in here in Nogales International, right? And the hard to watch Nogales suffer. I mean, everywhere our sales taxes are going down, the population is going down, yet all these expenses seem to be adding more and more and more and whatever, and some of these contracts automatically have increases, right? So I would like to see everybody working together as to for the benefit of the people of Nogales, where we can go ahead and save money. Because put it this way, if we don't get anything there, we're not gonna balance the budget. We might as well start letting go of people. And that's gonna be my next suggestion. Let's just figure out how many people we're gonna eliminate in each department.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman.
I don't quite agree with Councilman Alexander. The reason is, if we leave it up to the union, one Union A is gonna say, I can cut 10,000. Union B is gonna say, I can cut 5,000, and Union C is gonna say, I can cut 50,000. Then they're gonna say, well, their membership is gonna get, how come you cut us more than the other two unions? So I don't think that's really gonna work. I think we should just give them a number to balance what we think, to balance our budget. Let the city manager take it from there, and it's his responsibility. You're gonna reduce the budget by this amount that we are giving you direction to. And you take it up with, after we go through all of these, then we can come
No,
up with.
I understand, you know, but one of my concerns is that, you know, the city manager has always a tendency of presenting to us the union contracts for our approval. They negotiate. They do the negotiations. We don't do the negotiations. They do the negotiations. So if he does the negotiations, why didn't he look at this and say, you know what, this is too high? If he had already talked to finance director where we stood on our budget, and I myself, if I would have been negotiating these contracts, I would have said, you know what, is there anywhere we can trim this? Before I presented it to the members of the city council. Now we're giving them direction to look at their contract, but they had already brought it to us to pass the contracts. So we have to depend on them. We have to depend on them to look at the contract and say, you know what, I like this contract and I'm presenting it to the members of the city council for approval. But now, you know, that's the reason we're having a study session. Is because we need, the unions need to understand that, you know, Councilman Lopez mentioned to me, you know what, her concern is the uniform allowance. You know, everybody has one concern. They pinpoint one thing, you know, and you look at the uniform allowance and you go, whoa, it's kind of steep. You know, and she's thinking, can the city buy the uniforms and see if we can save some money on that? So, can you look at that and see if it can happen? Yeah, but the thing is, you know, we need to pass these contracts. We can't wait, you know, 6-7 months. It's got to be done now, okay? And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because we have to pass the tentative budget too. And I want to make sure that these contracts are in the tentative budget. And we have how much time to pass the tentative budget? Where's the finance director? We don't have a finance director in the city? Oh. Okay, so we have to do certain things. We have to do them now. You know, and that was my concern. You know, I spoke briefly to Mr. Kissinger about this, and that I myself, you know, when I got this and we started looking at, and luckily, when we did the budget hearings a week ago, luckily I asked for the sheets of payroll. They were not in our budget book. Our budget book just had scales and graphs. If I wouldn't have asked for those, that we wouldn't have known what was happening. Possible raises, possible selective this, selective that, you know. That's why we're in this position right now. And I spoke to you about this, Mr. Pettis. This is not the way you present a budget or a contract to a council. You're supposed to say, you know what, I'm supposed to trust you and your staff and say, you know what, Mayor, I agree with this contract. It's a good contract. Even though we could look through it, but if this contract falls into the balancing of our budget, I can understand it. But it doesn't. It doesn't fall into the balance. Look what we're doing now with our budget just to balance it. You know, we're trying our best, and we have to make sure that we protect the people's money and we do the best we can with the money we're going to have for the next fiscal year. And that's why I asked the members of the union, you can help us. You can help us. This is a 3-year contract, guys. We approved it's 3 years right here. Look, effective 19 to 23. 23?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Mayor,
Yeah.
now that you bring up that subject, so you know, is there a legal reason why it's 4 years?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think it has to be 4 years, but that's been the practice.
That's been the practice. I don't agree with the 4-year contract. We have, at one time, 3 of us are out on an election year, and then the following 4 of us. There could be really, but in order to keep every new councilman coming in aware of what is happening, these contracts, and they have a say, these contracts should be for a maximum of 2 years. 24 months is enough, and if somebody else comes in, they might have a different view, they might want to change it, they might want to change what we had agreed on, which is fine. I think 2 years is long enough for this contract, and this way everybody stays on top of what is happening. There's a lot of things that happen because of what past practices have been, and we haven't been aware of it. So that's why I'm not going to support a 4-year contract. That I will tell you.
And I'm going to tell you, in my previous term as mayor, I never discussed the union contracts. I always respected the city manager and his staff to give me a contract that the council was gonna approve. Never did I, you know that, Juanita, and you know that, never questioned it. In those 4 years, that was never did we have a study session questioning the union contracts, because I respected that at the time. It was this time, I don't know if it's because at that time our budget was balancing right, and there was no questions to be brought or something. Could have been a lot of different things. But this time around, I looked at it and I stayed a little quiet, and then I got a call from one councilman, and I got a call from another councilman that they needed a study session, and then at that point I started going through the sheet and I go, you know what, we gotta have a study session on this. And it's not that we're picking on anybody,
Oh, no, we understand.
and Balita, we're not picking on anybody. We just need to make sure that our budget is good. You guys should understand that. Let me give you an example. Say we keep something like this, all right? And the end of this year, we start an annexation project. And we annex, and we are successful, all right? We're gonna need more firefighters, huh? Even if we go to pilot, we're gonna need more firefighters. Remember the last annexation process, that was a 3-stage? Pilot, the corridor, second to the Little Red Schoolhouse from the railroad, third Keno Springs. Say you annex the whole thing. We're gonna need firefighters, huh? We're gonna need police officers. Chief, we're gonna need police officers, huh? Okay. We're gonna need more,
medical calls.
yeah, we're gonna need more overtime, huh?
No, more people getting injured.
Yeah, but then we'll still need more overtime. ¿Verdad? With more firefighters, more overtime. See, now you understand why we need to balance, because if we do that, we can actually see the future, we can program ourselves for the future. If we step into an annexation with this on a 4-year, and we do annex within the next 4 years, either the first phase or whichever, our budget's going to increase. I mean, come on, it's business. We're going to increase, but we'll have more people. We'll get more money from the state, federal, everything, because per capita, you know how we get more people. Census is coming around next year. We don't have that many people. We're losing people. We might lose money, guys. If we don't annex, we might lose money. And all has to do with the budget. It all has to do with how we, as employees, how we as citizens, we take care of our future in Nogales. So let's think about that. You know, we're not picking anybody, guys. We just want to make sure we have a good budget, and that our budget is something that's going to be good for you. We respect you guys. We respect the police department and CWA. We respect you guys, everybody. And I know it's hard for you guys. When I was going through the salary sheets, I was in shock at some of the money that public works employees are getting. I probably wouldn't be working there if I got that money. It's shy of being
Maybe if you look at some of the money some of these guys are making, not the ones that make all the overtime, we're $10,000.
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
We make less than we were equal and to that.
I know that. I know this, but it's a thing. I don't think they worry with a budget the way a city does. It's a whole different animal over there.
Property tax.
You know, but we have to look at that, and you know, and what you've or what the agency has collected on the ambulance, that's good.
That's
Coming
a lot of
in,
money.
it's great. And like Councilman Barona said, we respect you for the work you do with wildland fires and working with other agencies. That's good. It's good that our city helps out other communities. It's bueno. All this is good. You know, but you guys have to understand this. That's the reason I asked that question. What can you do to help us out? All right? But then again, I took to Councilman Barona. Maybe we should give direction to the city manager. But I'm not going to sit here a month waiting for you. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here a month waiting for you to come up with something.
We can give them a time frame.
Yeah, we have to, because we have to balance the budget. We only have, what, a week or two? Some of you are going to be gone next week, and then the following week, we're all gone to Phoenix. So we're going to have a time frame is very...
Monday to Tuesday.
Yes.
So I think it's a
And I really do not want to bring back to you the tentative budget until we have something for this,
I agree with
okay?
that. That
So,
was the purpose of us putting it.
so, should we continue discussing with each minimal, and then give them the information?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we should get a landscape of their positions, what the contract says, and then if we have any questions, so we have clarification on the questions, and then give direction to the city manager and the city attorney, you follow this contract. that we
Yeah,
put you there.
and and members of the city council, I look at the contracts and I'm very comfortable with them. It's just, I wanna look at the financial part of it, all right? I don't, the way they do their work, and there's this and that, and everything in the contract, I don't think we need to get in that. That's why we have staff to do that, and I know the contracts, I already looked them all, they're all mine are all highlighted.
I don't wanna
and-
get
and-
involved in that.
Yeah, no, let's not get involved in that. This is nothing, all of this is just for budgetary reasons, okay? So, Councilwoman, would you wanna tell them how you feel about this uniforms? How you feel?
Well, you know, I was having more or less, I went all through the contract. My God, you deserve these and more, really. But then, if we are right now having a problem with our budget, I thought, going over through all the contract, the uniform thing, the allowance for the uniforms, to me, it was a thing that maybe you might be able to negotiate. Right now, we're paying 150 plus 43.33 each. So at all, we're paying $102,000 a year. Could it be a change there? Could they be half of it, or?
If I may, just really quick, the uniforms, that we had a committee, and we all agreed, these particular pants, they're no-mix pants. The reason they are no-mix is because we use them, we can go straight to a wildfire with these. We don't need to change. So the pants we use are no-mix. So that means we can go to a wildfire with them. We have a brush fire right now going on Middle Hills, let's say. We don't have to change right away into the other pants, which means we don't have to buy a whole other set. Or actually, that's provided by the city, so kind of saving money there in a way. But they are $160 a piece. The shirts we use, I mean, we wash them often enough where we need to get them every few months. Those are $32 a piece. You know what I mean? The boots that we buy are $160 a pair. You know, that kind of stuff, it does add up. And either that, or if you guys are going to provide the uniforms, that would be a different story. But there is certain pants that we are required down to
Yes,
use.
the requirement part, I understand. It's kind of like in the sewer department at Public Works. The city, correct me if I'm wrong, the city still washes their uniforms, huh? Or they don't anymore?
Yes.
They do, huh? Yeah, because that, you don't want to take that clothing home.
That's the same
Because
exact thing we do here,
Okay.
because we don't want to take any
Yeah,
of the stuff
I
home.
understand. What I'm saying is, if there was a company here in Nogales that had that uniform, and the city were to purchase it for you, would it be a difference? Or let me put it this way: the city gives you how much a year? 1,800.
1800, yes.
1,800. And this is not. Don't take it wrong. The city gives you $1,800, ¿verdad? Do you bring the city back a receipt when you buy a uniform?
No? You wanted to?
What would you think?
We can.
If I go to Tucson right now, I gotta bring that lady in red a receipt from my office, because I can't even do anything. But she'll be after my assistant. Why didn't I bring the receipt for everything? And see, that will assure the city and assure us that you're buying uniforms, and maybe gives us an idea of how many you do buy, how many you do need. Because at Public Works, there's a truck that comes in once a year, and all the guys go there, and girls.
Yes, I remember.
and get
We used
the
to have
uni-
that
get their
same
boots.
service. That was before they changed the requirements on the type of uniform we need
Yeah,
to wear.
get the boots and stuff. But nobody here in Nogales sells those uniforms?
Yeah, Nogales Tactical sells them.
We buy 'em locally.
We buy them locally, yes. We do buy them. Most everybody, and they make the shirts, so they have our names and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But Yeah, we
But
do
have
buy
you ever
locally.
thought about that, Marita? You know,
I have. It's never really been brought up, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility.
you know, I don't know how much we would save on it, but I mean, that's you know, that's what you were
Yeah.
thinking about. That's
And-
yeah. Go
And I
ahead.
have another question. They also pay for housekeeping $43.33
Yes, ma'am.
each. So, what kind of housekeeping?
Okay, we're there for 24 hours at a time, right? So we
Everybody?
need,
Because they're
except
paying
except for
everybody.
administration. So yeah, there's at Station 1, there's every day there's 8 of us. Station 2, there's 6 of us. So that we buy stuff: toothpaste, shampoo, laundry detergent to wash our uniforms. A lot of us even take some of that money, we pitch in for groceries. So bedding, all the housekeeping toiletries that you need, because pretty much that's our house when we're on duty.
Go ahead.
Does anybody else get that? I mean, I can't even fathom the idea of saying, telling Apple or Google or General Electric, I need a household allowance.
Or they don't stay at the station for 20.
Even if you're at home, you still have the expenses of toothpaste or whatever else it is.
Yeah, but we need that stuff here at work. When we have a fire,
You need it at home, wouldn't you? You know,
correct, but if I'm here at work and we have a fire, I've got to take a shower now and continue working for the rest of the day.
We don't wanna get into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone, another question, Jeanette. I also question the ambulance, and again, I think we do a very good job of the ambulance deal. But how many times do you need 3 or 4 ambulances in at the same time?
Every single day, there's times when all 3 ambulances are at the hospital at the same time. We have that many calls.
Do you have a chart as to when they're
Absolutely,
happening?
Jerry's got that printed out. How many calls?
Also there, on the paper they gave us, looked like on the billing, but that's what I couldn't understand. Before it used to be, they used to go ahead and do the billing, and we would get paid 37% of the time that we did the billing. Could have been $3 million worth of billing, we only got paid $1 million. Now, I understand that you bill 1,300, 400 for an ambulance, or whatever it is.
Yes.
And the insurance company will cut it down, right? That's understood. But my question was, if it doesn't come out there, what percentage of our actual billing do we get paid? And looking at it, it looked like we got paid 50% of the time.
I think it's higher.
It's about 50.
So it's about 50.
It's like 50% of that the money we get. But what percentage of people don't pay anything? And then the question is, why don't they pay anything if the majority of them are gonna be on some kind of insurance? Again, the question was, and they said before it used to be the paper problem, they wouldn't fill in the right paperwork or whatever. Now they say it's done on an iPad or on a computer or whatever. And so if you don't put in the right numbers, the computer won't let it go through. So why are we being paid 90% of the time or 100% of the time if that's the deal? I know if I go to a hospital, I won't get out of there until they figure out what the insurance is. If they figure out you're not gonna pay, some people are just not gonna be able to pay, period. But what percentage of that is what we're looking at, right? Or why can't we get paid? My question is, if we're being paid 50%, we're being paid, I can't remember what the number was. Why can't we raise that by another 50%? Right? Not at 100%, but let's say it's 70% that we get paid. What is the problem? Whose fault is it we're not getting that money?
That I can tell you, sir.
Well, that's the question, is why can't we be told that?
I think it's regulated by DHS how much we can charge.
Well, that's understood, and I understand that.
And our report yesterday, well, we billed 2 million.
In our report that they sent us, they billed for the whole year. They billed $2,200,000, and we received $940-some thousand. But it's broken down into how many agencies they billed. They billed Medicare, Access, private insurances. Some are self-pay. But on Medicare or Access, they're going to pay a certain percent, like you were talking about.
Yes.
It's just not, they're not going to pay 100%. Even though we charge $2,000, yeah.
My question is, you do, let's say, 5,000 billings a year. Of those 5,000 billings, what percentage do we get paid on? Not on money-wise, on the billings themselves. what percentage do you get paid?
I was talking to Diane from Fry Fire, and I specifically told her the questions that you've been asking, and she's willing to come down and give up an actual presentation to council.
It's not a hard question, it's a simple question. I mean, are we getting 50% of what we bill?
It's
You know,
data that,
it's just to say, I would assume if I was the owner of the ambulance service, and 50% of my bill was not being paid, that would be the first thing I would be going after. I mean, I would close down the place if I was being paid 50%. It couldn't exist. Could the water department exist if people paid 50%? No. So, you know, and I understand when you bill the insurance company, you bill them $1,400, they're gonna pay you $800. They're gonna pay. That's understood. My question is, what percentage of the actual paper billings do we get paid on? Right? And I figure that would be something everybody would know.
that's
All the
a fair
reports
question.
are sent to finance on a yearly basis, so if any data that you might want, Jeanette might have it available for you, or
I figure you would wanna know that. Wouldn't you wanna know that?
we provide the service, sir. Our job, we go out there,
Part
and
of the
then we
service
try.
is the building. I
Exactly.
feel like the service too.
That's why we changed from having the in-house billing, because revenue was not collecting. They were collecting $300,000, $400,000 a year. We've doubled
I
that.
remember that, but it's still a simple, as far as I'm concerned, it's a simple question.
Oh, correct.
Jeanette, can I answer, can I get an answer to that question?
So,
Within a week?
No, it's gotta be less. Everything has to be less than a week, Councilman. I'm sorry.
correct.
I was just figuring out, sorry, Jeanette, I was figuring it out right now. We actually, for our budget, we have to meet either Monday or Tuesday of next week. Because the budget has time, you have time between one to the other.
Because we're meeting Wednesday.
And, yeah.
Then we're gonna have Monday and Tuesday, I think.
And then you're coming back, and then we have two more days the following week, or one day, and then we go to Phoenix, and then it's the end of the month.
Yeah.
So basically the direction to the city manager and staff, to get something done with the three unions, it has to come back to us by Monday, late Monday or Tuesday of next week. Not a month from now, not a week. It's gonna be a midnight oil type burning thing for them, even if they have to work Saturday and Sunday. Simple as that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to ask this one.
Come to the podium.
I've noticed on these contracts, they have a grievance. The grievance as described over here, does that meet with our current personnel language?
I believe it does.
I haven't been involved with the grievance. We don't get grievances from fire department.
Well, we're all three, they're
Or-
about the same.
I,
That,
both the personnel manual and the union contracts
They
contain
address-
grievances.
Yeah, they
here it says, I thought this was the opposite. It says, the board, the grievance gets to pick one person. I thought we did away with that.
We did away with that from the appeals board. So
there's a
appeal,
grievance board and an appeal-
correct,
Okay, that's-
correct, right.
And some of these are, so the grievance board is something that they're asking for, but the appeal board, they don't have no say into the appeal board. That's developed by the council.
Right.
Personnel matter.
Right, and the appeals board jurisdiction is more limited to adverse disciplinary action, such as suspension, demotion, or termination. A grievance, you can grieve anything. You know, you can grieve the color of the uniforms or anything you want. So grievance board has a lot more open-ended type jurisdiction. But it's, again, the idea is to come to a compromise from the grievance board.
Understood. Then, Dr. Fredrickson, and some of these on release time for union business, some of these contracts say one person, some of them say two people can be released. Someplace I read it, that 4 people can be released for negotiation. Just that there be consistency, the same thing, the same verbiage in all 3 contracts. Who can be released for negotiations or grievance, it should be equal to all 3 contracts. And I've noticed that some are more defined and have more opportunities than other union contracts have. So please bring consistency to that, how many people can be released, because they're all being paid by the city during the release time. So there needs to be consistency. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else have anything to say?
Did they get that?
Yeah, Jeanette, sorry about that, Jeanette.
Elaborate a little bit on the ambulance billing, and referring to the comment that Mr. Sanchez made about everything goes to revenue reports, but we don't get any information as to what they bill. And so I think addressing Mr. Hanesian's concern, Councilman Hanesian's concern, is that a claim goes out the door, and then there's, like you say, there's no follow-up, whether it was paid, whether it was denied, why was it denied, you know, what is the status of this claim. Unfortunately, we're not privy to that information because of HIPAA laws and all that. So probably the best thing would be where someone who's, you know, who works with that information is the one that would kind of have to keep on top of the claims and see why, you know, was this one paid, was it not paid? And I think that's what you're referring to.
My whole deal, what I'm getting at, and this is for the fire department, we were getting $300,000 or $400,000 more from the ambulance service, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We wouldn't be having this, right? And that's where the deal is. If somewhere along the line it's not working properly, let's fix it. The city, we're more than willing to get it fixed. If we're gonna get $300,000-400,000 more a year, it's to your benefit, it's to our benefit. But why don't we know that? Why don't we know where the system is breaking down? That's my only question. If it was my business, I would definitely have to know where it broke down, or else it'd be a bankruptcy deal, right?
Just really quick, as an employee, if I do a medical call when I'm doing my medical report, there's certain check boxes that I need that are come up red. In other words, your report's not going to be finished. One of those things is billing. We have to put all the required information that billing is required, asking for us in order for our report to even be submitted. So, I mean, on our end, we're doing everything possible. Why they're not able to collect on 100%, that I couldn't tell you, but we should definitely find out.
You should know. I mean, everybody should know. We should know. It would be our business to know.
Absolutely, but what I'm trying to say is we're doing everything everything they're asking us right now. If they need more, they need to tell us that so that we can fix that
They're not
problem.
telling you?
They have not so far.
We gotta find out what's going on.
Chief, real quick. As a fire department, could you contact the billing process and find out the percentage Mr. Hanesian is asking for?
We will do that. We had a conversation with him yesterday, and that's.
We don't need a PowerPoint or anything.
Okay.
Don't bring anybody with a PowerPoint. It's too late for that. Maybe for next time around, you know, if something happens and we don't get the, you know, the amount that you should be getting, as many calls as you guys have. Because I know you guys report all the calls. You send them all out.
Yes.
But Mr. Hanesian is asking, what's the percentage of the calls that are coming back that are being paid? Could you just call those people and say, you know, can you just give me a percentage? Is it 50%, 40?
As of
You know?
yesterday, was 50% of all the calls. Oh, the
Revenue.
Oh,
No,
okay.
of course.
Okay, we will get that for you.
Yeah.
We're talking about 10 calls, fire only 5.
Yes, yeah.
What Mr. Hanesian is asking is how many bills are sent out, okay? Then he's asking, out of all those bills, let's see how many bills were sent out.
How many
How
can pay?
many are paid?
Yeah.
Not 100%, not 50% at all, even if they pay just a little bit, how many are actually paying that?
Yeah.
We will get them.
Can you get that
Yes,
information
sir.
for us?
That's important.
And if we can find out, let's find out where the breakdown is. I mean, again, if you were collecting 400,000 more a year, again, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd all be saying, wow, what a deal, right?
And there were some of the and some money had to be paid back because of Medicare and Access that they overbilled them. So then our billing department had to reimburse those two agencies. So that's one of the negative that had to come out. But we will get that information.
Yes, please do that. Thank you. Go ahead, Councilman.
This topic of the ambulance. When we implemented the ambulance service back in 83 or 84, up and get you to the hospital as quickly and safely as possible. So, I understand, Mr. Hanesian's rationale and his question, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Even if it's not making money, it's a service that our community demands of all 7 of us to make sure that we provide to our community top quality service. So, Mayor?
Well, that's not the question, you missed the whole boat there, because my question is, if we're billing and we're doing the service, if we're not getting paid, and there's a very good reason, I have no problem with that. The service is excellent, at times I've had, it's excellent, we're not discussing the service. What I'm discussing, we're giving the service, where does the system break down that, I know some people are not gonna pay, that's understood. And I'm not saying don't give good service, right? The question is, as long as we're billing, you know, it's the same thing with the school system there. If they're going to school and the state wasn't paying you for 25% of your fees, I'm sure that the school system would have a complete breakdown, or they would have to close down. Not that they don't want to give the service. I'm just saying the same thing here. If we can get that money, which is what is expected, then we should get it. And it's got nothing to do with good service or bad service. It just has to do with the billings are going out. Well, let's see if we can get that money. That's the whole question. And then we can even eliminate a lot of discussion. Right?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman.
Councilman Trumpeter is trying to mix the facts up and trying to confuse us. And the bill is service. You can get the billing. The billing is going to be determined by Medicare, the insurance company, and they're going to try to flatline their costs. Okay?
But that's already in the system. That's already
No, I understand that. I want to make sure that you're entitled to your question from the ambulance. I have no question. I just want to make sure that the community doesn't misinterpret. We will continue providing our community with that service. That's all that I want to make sure that that's clear on, okay? I'm not trying to shortchange or anything like that. I just want to make sure that I don't get, there's not a bad editorial on us here that we're trying to shortchange anything, okay? So that's what I want to make sure.
Councilman Rojas is dying to say something.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reaffirm the comments that you made, Mayor.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you, and you have my support. I do agree with the comments that Dr. Barona, Councilman Barona made as well. They were very insightful. They were very, very good comments. And I also understand Councilman Hanesian, what he's saying. He's saying that we provided the service is going to continue, and we're going to collect on it. And we want to collect because we want to continue that service. We want to continue providing that. And of course, we want to take care of our firefighters, we want to take care of our police, and we want to take care of all of the city employees. And if I learned anything over my years of service, is that the money isn't, or the city isn't here to make money. We're here to provide a service to the entire community. So it's not about making money or making a profit. We are just supposed to make enough money so that we take care of the city every year. But that's money that we can tap into, that we provided the service in good faith. Now, pay us so that we can continue that service. But I totally agree with the dialogue that's taken place this morning. But I totally support the mayor, and I know that we want to balance the budget, and I know that we're going to balance that budget, but we do need your help on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Hey, did we get a sheet like this with a week?
It's gonna take me longer than this. I'll work on it and I'll get it to you by the end of the year.
Because we wanted to see about the overtime and all of that.
Are we through with the fire departments? We are. Okay.
Mayor, Council, thank you.
Yeah, Chief and Valita, you're gonna get together with the city manager and see what you guys can help out, okay? We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I do have a question.
gonna go with the police department now. Chief? I was gonna say you're on the hot seat, but it's not a seat, you're in the hot podium. Standing room only. Yes, go ahead.
Stone garden.
Okay.
Basically, that's a grant that we get, you know, I have contention with the working there, but that's not the discussion. How about, I noticed, and I wanted to use this factual sheet, is there a compression of salaries between the regular police officers and let's just say the lieutenants? Are the lieutenants have equal access to Stone Garden?
No, sir. No, sir. And that's a conversation that I had, as a matter of fact, yesterday with the mayor. There is a compression issue from lieutenants to commander to assistant chief to even myself, obviously. I'm not saying that, and I had a talk with, had a conversation earlier with Sergeant Acevedo, and obviously they get out there and work the overtime. I don't have the ability to, but in reality, if you look at the way my salary is right now and the way Sergeant Acevedo's salary is right now, I'm really making $14,000 more than he is. So there is a compression issue. There is a huge compression issue, and again, this month and a conversation that I had with Mr. Mayor yesterday. This is my 36th year with the Nogales Police Department, and this issue has been, the problem has been, the can has been kicked down the road here for the last 36 years that I've been here. And I guess the salvation that we're waiting for, that we're all seeking, is this compensation study. That obviously right now we need to be frugal with our funds, and it's understandable. But I think it's enlightening and refreshing to at least see that there's some type of light at the end of the tunnel that says, you know, we will look into this, because there is a big compression issue, and it's getting tighter and tighter. And right now, what we're, you know, the conversation that we're having, and I've had with certain council members, is, you know, we're having a hard time recruiting and retaining. And I'll tell you the retaining part. And I'm not talking about the retaining that the officers have been here for 5 or 10 years. I'm talking about officers that hit their 20 that immediately leave. As a matter of fact, we're in a process of probably losing 2 here within the next couple of weeks to the sheriff's office. Okay, and that's the retainment part, because there is no enticing part of saying, okay, do we have another step that I can go up to? You know, once you hit the 5-year mark, that's it. That's how much you're going to get paid for the rest of your career, unless you become a sergeant, right? And then the problem that we have right now is to become a lieutenant. How can I encourage somebody to become a lieutenant when the pay of a lieutenant is $63,000 and you have a sergeant making $76,000? They're going to say, why am I going to take a cut in pay of $10,000 to obviously get gray hair, right? So that's the problem that we're running into right now. But there is a huge compression issue between rank and file at the PD.
Mayor, with your permission, I'd just like to have Dr. Phoenix also, and Mr. Massey, bring us something when you're negotiating with them on this compression issue. And the other thing is, Chief Hernandez, what about this? What's the solution for you on this uniforms? You get a uniform allowance. How can we, I think that's where we're spending it. How can we help us with that?
You know, uniform allowance is for us. It's and I'm not saying that we're, you know, the dynamics between the fire, and even though we're public safety, dynamics are very different. You know, our officers are always out there. Their uniforms, their shoes are something constantly. You know, one of the things that we're trying to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you call an officer to your house, to your home, you know, they call us because you're going through the worst day of your life. And we need to change, and we need to look professional, and most importantly, like the mayor always talks about, the image of Nogales, and we need to look presentable. Now, we furnish uniforms to officers when they first come on. Initially, we were getting $150 in uniform allowance, and the MPOA a couple of years ago gave part of that as a concession during budgetary talks also, to $127. So basically, after taxes and stuff, officers get $113.15 a month. Okay, that I can tell you right now that and this is my personal, I dry clean my uniforms at least twice a week, and I just took one in. That's $9 per uniform twice a week. That's $18 a week. Times that by 4, that's going to be $72 just in dry cleaning. And we're not talking about, you're talking about, you know, the people that wash them. You're talking about shoes, gloves, keepers, glasses, ties, boots, caps. And our uniforms, there's two kinds of uniforms that we use. We use this one, a Bico, and we use the 511, which is a little bit rougher uniform. A couple of years ago, we went to a uniform committee and made it mandatory that we were only going to use those uniforms, those two uniforms, because we would come to work and you would confuse the police department for an all-star team because everybody had different uniforms. And so we want to be professional, we want to have a good image, but at the same time, we need to make sure that our officers are taken care of. We buy them an initial jacket. That's the only thing we get them. We outfit them initially, everything else is up to them. So if they're here for 5 years, if they're here for 10, 20, that's what it is. One of the things that we're looking at, and I understand the frugal part, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. I know we need to find ways of curbing our expenditures. One of the things that I met with MPOA in their new agreement that came up, and they were asking for a couple of things. One of the things they were asking for is 4% for a 9-year experienced officer, and then a 13% increase. That comes out to about $130,000. I sent an email back to Victor Hetherington, who's the president of the MPOA, along with Nick Acevedo, and CC'd both Mr. Kissinger and Dr. Felix, and I basically elaborated that because of the fiscal disparity that the city was going through, that I wouldn't recommend and that we do this because, to begin with, number one, my budget would not support it. And there's no way I could have come up with $130,000 to add to the 4% for 9 and 13-year increases. Now, do I think they deserve it? Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do deserve it. However, I mean, I can only write checks for the amount that I have in my checkbook. I can't go further than that. So that's where we're at right now. They were asking for a 20-year ring. In the past, way past, we would get them. I got my 20-year ring 12 years ago. I don't remember who gave it to me as far as to who the chief was or what funds it came out of. But right now, even with anti-racketeering funds, that's not legal to use public funds for an expenditure that big, because every ring's roughly about $1,000. So get rid of that. They were asking for FTO pay, field training officer pay. Basically, an officer that trains an officer would get paid $1 more, or they were asking for 18.75% more while the officer is training another officer. I put that down to 3%, which equates to about 60-some cents more an hour, which my budget, and talking to the finance director, can't support, because they don't get it the full 12 months. They just get it for a couple of months, a couple of weeks at a time while they're training somebody, right? So that's something that can be supported. Shift differential, they gave that concession. It was at one point it was at shift differential, the people that work shift work from 2 to 10 and 10 at night to 6 in the morning. That way, at one point in time, that was $1. We put it down through concessions and negotiations to 50 cents more an hour. Court time, and that's one thing that I was talking to Sergeant Acevedo, who's part of the MPOA and representing the union right now, is that a possibility to go down to 2 hours instead of 3 hours? Basically, if it's on your day off, or if you're working day shift, which is from 6 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, and you have court at 3 o'clock, you can show up to court, and sometimes court lasts 3 hours, sometimes court lasts 15 minutes. Sometimes the defendant doesn't even show up, but you make that trip, and obviously, especially when it's on your day off, so automatically they get paid for 3 hours. So that's a concession that they're willing to look at. But but we really need to sit down after the, obviously I heard the conversation that you were having with the fire department and look into. Yeah, I mean, we're willing to, I mean, I'm not saying we because I'm not part of MPOA, but I'm saying that I'm willing to sit down with obviously them, like I have in the past, and city manager, and go over and reach a happy medium. Obviously, you know, the uniform allowance, I'm very protective over, because these officers, I mean, they're out there in the elements. They're out there, you know, we only pay for one jacket. If they've been here for 15 years, everything else that's on their body, you know, as far as it's on them. They have to buy undershirts that are comfortable for their body armor. They need to buy socks that are comfortable for their shoes. They need to buy, I have a couple of pairs of boots that I rotate, because if not, I would finish them off in you know, 7-8 months. So the dynamics of what we do and being on the public is very different. And these again, the uniform allowance is to purchase uniforms and accessories, and also the maintenance and upkeep of that uniform. Because again, you know, I want to have a professional and a police department that has a good image, that they can say, you know what, this is I trust my life with this officer, because they're not calling us because they're having a good day. They're calling us because they're at their worst time, and that's where we're at right now.
Mr. Mayor? Go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, can I ask Mr. Acevedo a question?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Council?
Good afternoon, Mr. Acevedo.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Acevedo, do you concur with the statements that you heard from the chief?
Yes, and that's one of the things that we have with our chief, is that we do have a good communication between the union, between MPOA and his office. We have a very good communication. The only thing is that, the only thing I ask, everything that he says here is correct. I have no issue with what he said. We both discussed it. You know, we're good. The only issue that I have is, and I wish that city could do something about it, was every time that our contract comes to the table, which our contract is only for 2 years. The police department's contract is only, is that every year it's different, depending who the mayor is, who the city manager is. I said, hey, but by our meet and confer ordinance, our contract has to be in the city manager's desk by February 2nd. And then it depends from there who we do negotiate with. This year we haven't negotiated with anybody until I got a call 3 weeks ago from Commander Jimenez wanting to clarify a couple questions on our contract. But we emailed our contract to Mr. Felix February 2nd. And we have the receipt that he received it and everything, but every year it changes. Every time that we come up for negotiations, it changes. I wish that could come, so maybe we wouldn't have to go through this. Then you guys would be all updated properly on what our contract has.
You're right, you're right. It should be done. I mean, if you send it with time, it should be talked about and negotiated with you way before we even get close to the
Even
budget.
before it gets to the budget, before it comes to you guys' desk for budget, we should have had this discussion, you know, months ago. And like saying, hey, how's this gonna affect the chief's budget?
Yes.
Mr. Massey, when you're working on contracts with them like that, can you put some verbiage in there that when this is due to the city manager and who has to respond by when, so this doesn't happen?
I think there's, as what Sergeant Acevedo is saying, is the ordinance has that verbiage as far as requiring the union to have a deadline, but our ordinances don't typically say control management, but we could come up with a policy on
Well,
that.
I think in fairness to the mayor and council and to them, we need to have something so that it gets to us in a timely manner.
Okay. I'll look at that. I'll look at coming up with some language. Yes.
And the 2 year.
And a 2 year, I'm only gonna support 2 years.
2 year, no, I'm with you on that 100%. You know, and I was, I don't know what I was thinking when I said 3 years, but, you know, you know, I'm talking about the fire.
For 2 years,
But,
I mean, it works well for
yeah.
us.
Thank you very much, Sergeant.
Yes.
Is that it?
Mayor, that's it, I'm ready to go on to
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. And again, Mr. Felix, you're gonna have to sit down with the PD on this one, okay? and see what we can do. And you basically heard the chief there saying there's certain areas that it's going to be very close for them to even discuss any finances besides leaving it the way it is. But you need to discuss this. Bring it back to us. Okay. Do we need to talk to somebody right now?
Well, I don't know, CWA, who's gonna represent us, so you can give us an overview of the
Yeah,
contract.
Well, I'm really
The
glad.
benefits that they're asking for.
Well, I actually asked for an extension, I didn't ask for anything. That's correct. But I did wanna, I'm really glad the last thing that just came up, here's my letter that was sent January 30th. Because as they just said, we have to have all of our contract with the changes, and I did send a proposed contract with changes on January 30th that went with this, but I also said, because I didn't know what the budget was, which is another thing I want to talk about, I basically said if those are not possible, then I'm asking for an extension, and I didn't hear anything until pretty much when the meeting was set last week. This was the first time I heard. So, and that's actually probably one of the main things right now. Traditionally, we've been given a budget. I've not seen a budget. So like what you're asking us to do would be great, but like you said, it would have been really helpful to have gotten this, months ago so we could have done that. In Tucson, which I know you don't always want to hear about, but in Tucson, it's really common that when something like this happens, they will come to the three unions and say, this is a number we're trying to get to. You guys work together and come back to us. And we actually, 4 unions actually, we actually work together and do that all the time. But again, we're given the information. I mean, I have no budget. I don't, like what some of the things you were talking about right now, I don't have any idea. I don't know what it costs. I've not seen a budget probably in at least 2 years. And traditionally, we would be given a budget, they would email it to me, and then I would get a hard copy so that I had something to look at and study, but I have nothing. So I don't have a clue what anything is costing. I also wanted to just kind of mention that when people have talked about concessions, I mean, we've given concessions too. We reduced our uniform allowance from 120 to 85. The only people that really get that allowance to speak of is the PD folks, the civilians. And so we had reduced it from 120 to 85 a while ago. And then we also had given up the shift differential. I mean, again, when there's been years that things have been lean, the city has traditionally come to us, but much earlier than now, and said, we've got to do some cuts. I think probably the last person that we worked with was actually Mr. Dilly. And we would get notice fairly early. He would tell us, this is the kind of number we're looking for. Again, we would have budget, so we would be able to intelligently come up with something. But I feel very handicapped, in that respect right now.
Do you remember who was the mayor back then?
You.
Okay. That's what I was saying earlier.
Exactly.
That's what I was saying earlier. That's
Right.
the way we did things back then.
Right. And that's the way it should be, because
the way
I
it
think
should be.
I think all of my union brothers and sisters would agree with me. I mean, we don't want the city to go bankrupt. I mean, we care about the city because our employees are not going to be successful and not going to have jobs if the city's not successful. So this should be one concerted effort here. But again, we have to be given information, and we need to be treated as a partner. I mean, again, we can't just wait, like you said, to the last minute and say, well, tell us what you want to give us today. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't have a clue. I would really have to price things out, and I've not been given anything. So as far as we're concerned, like I said, we asked for a 1-year extension, and I think the other night, Dr. Verona and I were kind of discussing why we went for an extension rather than just a 1-year contract, and I said because I felt like we don't have a city attorney. We don't have a permanent city attorney. I don't know what the city manager situation was. I would just rather negotiate with people that I think is going to be here for a while. So that's why I chose to ask for an extension. I just thought a 1-year extension would be a more appropriate thing to do. So as far as we're concerned, like I said, and I also wanted to mention too on the uniform allowance, I know like our housing people haven't gotten new uniforms in I think almost 2 years. they have been bugging me for a while now. They have not, from what they say, and I've not seen them, but that their uniforms are in terrible shape. And that, and from what I found out. Huh? Well, yeah, but they haven't gotten new uniforms at all. Like, according to the contract, they should be getting 10 shirts and 10 pants a year, and they've not gotten that in at least 1 year, if not 2 years. And from what I understand from Mr. Dillon, it got dropped from the budget last year, and like nobody kind of knew what happened with that, correct? Yes.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I don't know that I really have anything else to add. I would appreciate, I think it would be a great idea with this ordinance that there would be some kind of time frames put in, because like you mentioned, I mean, we have time frames that we have to abide by. And like I said, here's my letter from January 30th. It's been here since January 30th.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilman.
thank you. I'm done.
Yes,
I'm ready to make my summary comments.
go ahead.
Whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mayor, I go back to your comment at council, real fast, the rest of you agreed. I think that we all concur that this budget needs to do something to be reduced to help us balance our budget. We all agree with that. I agree with the mayor that if they have to work the next 100 hours straight, we have to work the next 100 hours straight. You tell us right now, we're gonna either meet on Monday or Tuesday, but let's meet Monday or Tuesday and get this thing settled up. I think, you've caught in the concept, Mr. Massey and Dr. Felix, about what the council so far has asked. Is there any confusion of either you two what we've been asking for?
I don't think so.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you just want us to leave it up to them to negotiate on this without an amount, or do you want us to come out with an amount that you think we should be within the ballpark to tell them we would like to see at least within the concept of all three units, $100,000 reduction or whatever amount we agree to, or you just want to leave it up to them?
I'd rather leave it up to them and finance director. Because if I give you a number and you don't come up to it, I'm not going to be pleased.
That's fine.
So I'd rather. So I'd rather leave it up to them and be conservative, but also you have to understand the needs of the fire department, police department, and CWA and all that. But I want to see something on my desk by Monday, because on Tuesday we're having a council meeting for the tentative budget. So we're not going to go past Tuesday. So it works Saturday and Sunday, ni modo, guys. Yes.
Could I please request that we have the meeting on Tuesday, the 18th, 9:30 in the morning?
Yes, that'd be fine. You okay with that, Vice Mayor?
I am fine to do that.
Yeah, you know,
It's a 24 hour.
Regular meeting and
Yes, the agenda has to be
Yeah.
out on Monday by 9:30.
9:30.
The agenda has to be out on Monday morning before 9:30.
Yes. Well, this is the way let's put it this way. Tomorrow's Friday, see or no?
Yeah, yeah.
You put the agenda tomorrow for the budget, tentative budget, at 9:30 Tuesday, and you make sure you finish the numbers that you need to be able to. ¿Dónde está la Janet? Se me desapareció. Janine, te me escondes. Ni que estuvieras tan alta para que te sentaras ahí atrás. So that you can have something to put on the budget in reference to whatever deduction was made.
I'm just a little concerned because you would need to post the agenda Monday morning by 9:30, and if something's going to be on your desk on Monday, I mean...
No. You're going to have, she's going to post it so that she can do it. She
Okay,
can do it tomorrow.
okay,
For Tuesday's meeting,
okay,
for the budget, tentative budget.
okay.
That's all we're having,
Yeah,
just
but
one
there'll be
item.
no attachment, I guess is my.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
and you're gonna make sure there's something there to be able to balance the budget. And you can bring the side thing to us, give it to us, but it's gotta be in the budget. Can you do that?
Yes.
See?
If I get information by Monday morning and then.
Yes.
Then I can work on it
Yeah,
and not go home.
9:30 in the morning. Yes, Vice Mayor. I mean, Councilman, ya te subí, right?
No, I don't want to
No.
be sued. I like it. Mayor, if I also like to request, I just have a little concern on the city court, the 16th city court that I attended a hearing down there, and I would like that item to be placed before the adoption of the janitor fund to bring to the council.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, you guys? You guys are
I'll
good to
tell
ready?
you what it is. You know what, Dr. Pettit, we can get together with Mr. Massey for the proper work. It's just information for them that I just want them to consider. Doesn't even, just at that time. Is that all right, Mayor?
Yes, that's fine. Members of the city council, are you fine with everything?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
What you just said, please.
City clerk?
Yeah.
If we could have that item that I want to discuss on the city court, and safety on the city court, the item before the approval of the tentative budget.
Oh, just in order.
Yes, in the order.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
You okay? Guys, you okay? Thank you for being here, and thank you for your help. Lalita, you're a good man. I don't care what your dad says about you. You're a good man. All right? This meeting is adjourned.